All right, good morning. This is the regular November meeting for the Town of Bethlehem IDA. It's November 26, 2024 at 8:01 a.m. I am Catherine Hedgeman, the Executive Director and Agency Counsel for the IDA, and I'm just going to call the roll for a quorum here. Dick Cotlow.
Here.
Chris Welsh.
Here.
Victor Franco.
Here.
Joaquin Hope.
Here.
We also have with us Al Michaels, our CFO, Chris Canada, our special counsel, and we have some guests today from the school district and the town supervisor. Welcome. Dick, why don't we move on to the minutes and you can take a vote on that if you would as the ranking officer here.
As the only officer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Kate, for calling to order. Before we do the minutes, I think this is Jack's first meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So let's welcome Joaquin Hoke, and a friend of mine for many years. I call him Jack.
Yes, you do.
Right? And he's our new member, and why don't we, well, Kate, you just introduced us all, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So first item on the agenda are the minutes for the October 23rd, 2024. Do we have any comments, corrections, edits? Rick?
I do, but they're minor.
Okay.
Victoria had some too,
Yeah.
so, all right, did you want to just go through them quick or
If they're minor,
Yeah.
you want to submit them? Just
Yeah, I'll
okay,
submit them.
All right.
if they're not substantive, just
No, they're,
okay.
Okay,
Then,
all right.
we
So
don't-
we'll approve it subject to,
minor adjustment.
yes.
Okay, do I have a motion?
motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Wasn't here.
Okay.
Wait, can you abstain when we pass it?
No, but that's okay. We can put it back on for next.
Vote for it.
Put on next one. As amended.
See, you're not gonna, the peer pressure, you're not gonna.
No, because
I said it,
Yeah,
so as
that's
long as
fine.
I say it,
Yeah.
it's fine. Yeah, sure.
But you were here, I think.
I was here, but I wasn't a
See,
member.
now you're no longer friends. He said you've been friends for a long time. All right.
Okay.
All right, it's up to you. We can pass it.
Victoria will be here. We'll do it at the end.
Okay,
Okay.
financial report. Al has a great financial report to
Wow,
present.
it's great. We have the financial statements as of October 31st, 2024. Statement of net assets, total cash accounts, 1,781,150.69. Other current assets, we had a fee receivable of 29,902.79. That represents the most recent quarterly PSEG energy reimbursement, which has since been collected. And we have prepaid expenses of $2,030.89, giving us total other current assets of $31,933.68, and total assets of $1,813,084.37. Our liabilities and equity, we had accrued expenses of $25,533, leaving us with net assets of $1,787,551.37. Going to our statement of revenue and expenses to see how we got to this point for the year. Total fee income is $235,778.67. Contractual expenses were $124,525.45. Business and economic development expenses were $25,445.86. Giving us total expenses of $149,971.31. Giving us ordinary income of $85,807.36. We had back a little bit of interest income of $34,679.64. We have a net year-to-date of $120,487. Comparing that to budget, our next report, budget versus actual, you can see our fee income, of course, is below what we budgeted simply because we didn't close the project yet this year. But our PSEG energy reimbursement is almost the same amount above budget because there was uncertainty at the time we did the budget in the fall of 2023 about the PSEG project. So we budgeted a little low. And in fact, it's been on all year and it's done fine. Expense side, contractual expenses were a little bit ahead of budget. They're over budget by about $3,775.44. Business and Economic Development, we're $96,000 below budget. A lot of that is being made up as we receive monthly billings from our consultant on the mapping project. So our net ordinary income, we're 90,000 ahead of what we budgeted, and interest income is pretty much running where we expected. So comparing year-to-date to budget, we're 91,000 ahead of where we budgeted. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the financial report? We will make our interest income figure because we just recognized another 8,000 or so of interest on our CD with KeyBank that matured, so.
Great. Any questions? We don't approve that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Right on time, Mr. Executive Director. I thought it was chair.
That's all right.
Slightly amazing.
All right, so moving on quickly to the executive director report. Rob and I have not, Rob more so than I, found someone to fill the senior economic developer position yet. So I know we're gonna keep working on that into the first quarter of next year. And when we do that, normally this would be the time of year we do the services contract for the town. So we're gonna table that until such time as the position is filled. So I'm already looking at 2025, and we got a lot of potentially good things coming up. And toward that, we wanted to begin to hold regular committee meetings on certain topics. So Victor has graciously agreed to be chair of the governance committee. And toward that end, we want to start to schedule some regular meetings to start to go through all of our policies, including the UTEP and our application, to really take a look at it, see what changes that we want to make, among other things. So thank you, Victor. Appreciate it. And I know you had some dates in mind, what the governance committee meetings would meet. What are those again?
Either Tuesday or Thursday, the first Tuesday or Thursday of every month,
Okay,
except for April.
right. Okay. I'll see if I can get, I gotta talk to Stacy about the room, so I'll see if I can get that. Okay.
And that would be 8 AM.
Okay. Chris, marketing committee, right? He's being voluntold, yes. So the marketing committee, and it shouldn't be too much of a heavy lift, but we want to get with the new web person that we have, and she's set up the social media, and I'll be working on a newsletter template. And that's all going to be very important when we start to take public input on the industrial site survey. So we want to get that up and running. And also content, for economic development in the town. And we'll include Rob, and whoever else in that wants to be included is fine too. Any idea when you might want to do that? Or you want to think about it?
Let's chat, Walt.
Okay.
Same time as his meeting.
I'm going to talk to Georgette as well as Dick, because the audit will be coming up. And last year we were a little slow on the take, so I want to get some meetings already, so we have a schedule for that already set up. And I think that's it on the committees. So Victor, I'll follow up and make sure we can get the room, and then we'll talk about when you want to do it. There is an open position for vice chair, and I think we should mention and thank longtime board member David Cadera, who has retired from the board, and I'm going to put together a nice letter for him and send it to him. And the town board has, they taketh with one hand and giveth with the other. Mr. Hoke has joined us, so, but a big thank you to David, and his experience has been invaluable. I don't know if you want to say anything in addition to that, since you
Yes.
you and Dick have known him the longest.
Well, yeah, Dave was the second most senior person on the board. He came on a couple of years after I did, and I joined in 2012, and we worked together for a long time. went through a lot of different kinds of projects and discussions, management, changes at the town level. And I think that I know that he worked extremely hard, and he worked very hard to make this board become better, do better work. It was always, how can we do our work better and best? Is really what he came in with. And I think that he left us much stronger than he found us. So we'll put something like that into the letter. And then, he left us with grace and timing so that we were able to post the position, and the town board appointed Joaquin Hoke. And I'll let Kate, I'll let you handle that formal introduction since you've known him for a long time.
Sure, we did do it.
Okay, well, you did do it, so, while I was stuck in traffic in the rain.
That's okay, that's all right.
Do we know what date the appointment was made by the town board? Does anybody have the time? Because I have to put that on the parish report. It
Yeah,
says
it's 13th.
on 11/13.
That's our governance chair.
Yes.
I actually
He's
have
paying
the-
attention.
The parish report is about 98% done. I do all the tax numbers, because the tax. So these are questions that are easier to figure out in November than March.
Oh, yeah.
So, great, thanks.
So with Dave's stepping down from the organization, and he couldn't be here today, we asked him if he could come, and it was simply not possible in his schedule. He had been vice chair, and so that is a formal officer position that we do want to fill. We would like to do it without volunteering anyone. So please, everyone.
That's the way she'd do
That's the way
it.
she-
That's the way I would.
I know how
Yeah.
you work.
That's how I became vice chair about,
She sends the email when I'm not checking.
So it is an important position. It's not just ceremonial. And therefore I ask that everyone take a look at what we do. The description of vice chair is really pretty bland. And it has to do with helping everyone fulfill the mission of the organization.
We attempted to approve the minutes at the beginning, but
Mhm.
John wasn't here, so technically he
Oh,
couldn't vote
okay.
for it. So if we just want to put another motion to approve the minutes,
Yep.
and I know Victor had some changes, and I know you did as
Mhm.
well. So we can do it subject to those changes if you'd like.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes now that we have
So
Or-
moved.
Second.
Did you get that? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Guys
Jack's gonna
abstaining?
vote against it this time.
You said there was some change that need to be made to this, technically.
Don't feel bad. This is
Okay.
the same on my first meeting.
So I can count to 4. The motion passes unanimously to approve the minutes.
So where we are now is really new business. We have to actually make a motion to appoint Victor as chair of the governance committee.
Oops, I get the door.
It's
Well, it's coming from this
Oh,
wall.
never mind.
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstaining or not approving? Okay, motion passes.
Motion to appoint Chris Welsh, chair of marketing committee.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstaining or voting no? Okay, motion passes unanimously to appoint Chris Welch, chair of the marketing committee.
Okay, so the next new business is the resolution authorizing modifications and amendments to the Cannon Development LLC project. So hopefully you've had a chance to, read through to see there, but here's just a little bit of background on that. A couple months ago, actually, I received a call from the applicant, and they had mentioned that they had gotten a tax bill for 100% of the improved value, improved value of the property. And I took a look at they thought it was an error. And I took a look at the pilot, and so did Joe Scott, I believe. And it is what the pilot said. It said 100% of the value, but What wasn't real clear, a little bit ambiguous, was of what value.
Yeah.
So apparently, in January, a temporary CO was filed with the planning department, which triggered the assessor to assess the property as finished and improved
Mhm.
instead of, waiting for the project to actually be finished. Because the temporary CO, according to Rob Leslie, was issued so that they could get in there and finish it, right?
Right.
Because you need to be able to have access to. So it was sort of, I think, accidental and/or, just one of those miscommunications. So in order to take care of that issue for the taxpayer, for the pilot, for the applicant, we had to look at some amendments, and that's when I turned it over to Special Counsel Chris Canada. So you want to take it from here?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. So the main idea here is they finished earlier than expected, so we don't want to penalize them for finishing early. If you look at Exhibit A to the resolution, you'll see in 2024, as Kate said, 100% taxes on the improvements. So this could have just released the improvements on the property. Typically, you want the 2 years after the completion date to have your 0% for this IDA. Because they finished the project earlier than expected, having them be penalized because of this reassessment is kind of goes against the idea of the pilot itself. You want to take a look at the modified schedule below that. All this does is just starts the pilot 1 year earlier. So instead of finishing in 2037, it finishes in 2036, which, from a public policy standpoint, that's a good thing because you're getting it back on the tax roll a year earlier. Now, I think there was some miscommunication with the assessor and then the company. There is also Exhibit B to this resolution. It's a request letter from company counsel asking for the pilot to be, like I said, amended to reflect it starting a year earlier. We always have the company, the project applicant, provide a request to the IDA for its records. So, but it's a significant jump, as you'll see in the page 3 of the resolution. The assessed value of the property in 2023 was $289,000 and change. Was reassessed for $2.475 million. So, and the school tax bill in 23 from just Ravina Queen's Selkirk was $5,852, and they got a bill for $50,762. So that's what triggered all this emotion. So happy to answer any questions, but that's the 30,000 foot view.
I have a couple questions. So, because I wasn't a board member back in 2020 when this was first voted on, when was the original anticipated completion date?
December 31st, 2024.
Yeah, the end of this year, yeah.
Which was why the pilot schedule was set up the way it was.
And then when did it actually get completed?
Well,
It's
I think
really
it's
kind
kind
of
of up in
not.
the air. There was a certificate of occupancy issued in early January. So it is ahead of schedule.
So January 24, okay.
Yep.
And then on page 4, section 4, is the date, it looks like retroactive provision.
Yeah,
So that's deliberate, right?
that is deliberate to
Okay.
kind of not to get stupidly legal here. The legal concept is called non pro tunc, meaning it should have been the way it was before. We're going backwards, which sounds like something nefarious, which it's not. It's just
The layman's terms is
you're going retroactively.
Retroactive.
You're going retroactively.
We have
just
fancy
to,
names, but-
to avoid unfair
Yeah.
consequences.
Going in the multiverse.
Talking around.
I never get to use Latin, so once in a while I throw it up there.
Let's see. And then has the school district been notified of the action that we're about?
I defer to agency counsel on that one. I know that obviously the town's aware of it.
yes.
I have not obviously notified the school district on this.
No, I talked to Mike Cohen last week, and until we approved it, we hadn't talked to them. No. At least, I don't know if Mike has, but I'll ask him when I talk to him about this. One of the things, as a result of this and a few others, that I'm going to work with Mike Cohen, who's our town comptroller, and Lori, who's our current assessor, is whenever there's a pilot, like each year, we should get, before the roll comes out, we should just get together and make sure everybody's on the same page. Because this potentially could happen again. We hope not, but,
Yeah.
you know.
And, you know, the pilot agreement itself, I think, was drafted correctly. It's just usually they're asking for extensions for the completion date. Here, they're ahead of schedule, which is
And
pretty
once
rare.
that CO gets issued, that signals to the assessor that, you know, it's finished for the most part. And because it was in January, pre-tax roll, it wound up making the change.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I would just, humbly recommend that in light of pending legislation, that we make sure that we have our partners in the school districts aware of any actions, before we make them. Just like you said. So if that hasn't happened, then I would recommend, making them aware and maybe even during the phase in of the taxes, as we go along. That's all.
well, I mean, they have a copy of the pilot,
Okay.
right? This was one of those weird, things where if the project hadn't finished, they would have planned on
Right.
that. But because the bill went out from us, technically, right, that's what caused the issue. So I think we can, I can talk with Mike and see what we can do just to notify them of exactly, like, send them a letter at least of what's going on.
I got a few things, and
Sure.
first of all, I fully support technical corrections, okay? If this is a technical correction, we should correct it, so I'm fully in favor of this. Two, I asked the same question before, because, we're cutting out a position, $50,000 is a lot of money, but I agree with what Kate said. And thirdly, did you draft this?
No, Chris,
What's it gonna cost?
What's it gonna cost in legal fee?
Yeah, do we know?
I mean, it's just, if we get a pilot amendment, it would be not that much.
they have an hourly agreement, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're not looking at a significant cost.
No, absolutely not.
All right. That was-
And we felt that we shouldn't be passing on that cost to the applicant because.
I understand. I fully understand. That's why, we can keep it as low as possible.
And what's the project?
Oh, the,
Yes.
Oh, it's all good, it's all good.
Crane storage facility.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
You drive up the thruway going north, it's right after exit 23. Beautiful, it's right there. You can see Bird Crane.
Oh, okay.
they
Yeah, I
were
think-
already in the town, I
Yeah.
believe, and they were expanding their
Exit
footprint, weren't they?
They
No,
were
they
in
were-
Cahos. and they-
Oh, okay,
Good.
all right. That was before my time too, so.
Mhm. Yep.
I'm just trying to place.
It would be wonderful if it was. They got a great signage of the thruway, and it'd be nice if it was a Bethlehem IDA project. It's really.
We gotta give them the sign.
That's
Are you gonna
probably
pay for
true.
the sign?
Yeah, we gotta give them the sign.
Okay,
We'll have Chris do it.
wait, time out. I will vote in favor of.
Because, we have more money than we've ever had in history.
I'm in favor of it, but Mr. Marketing.
All right, any other questions on the?
Yeah. Well, just, Shai, your point is well taken about what is the project. So Burt Crane, also known as Cannon Development, is a heavy construction equipment leasing company based in Cahos. They came to us, I think it was 2019, and then pandemic and bats delayed some of the construction start because they had identified that site down by the thruway in an industrial site for an expansion project. So they're still in Cahos. This is an expansion. They wanted a very large building because they wanted to be able to do more.
Sure.
And reach a broader market. And the thruway location, I think, is terrific if you're moving. The parcel is not fully built out. They periodically have said that they're thinking of potential for other things on that parcel. So nothing certain, but I think this is a company that's come in and said, well, what else can we do here? And we like that a lot. Are there any other questions?
I have one, not necessarily, if we approve this, which I hope we do, I assume that my parish report, I will have having a pilot this year. I do. In the past, I put it that the pilot doesn't take effect until 2025. So if we're approving this accelerated schedule, we'd have it, or we wouldn't have a pilot.
Well, the pilot went into effect 2022,
It did, okay.
Yeah.
With no
technically.
technically, nothing.
But it was zero, is that,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was,
There was no difference.
There was no abatement.
yeah,
Right, there was no abatement.
That's right.
that's probably what you're thinking of.
Yeah,
So there was no abatement at the current assessment. That's what we're saying. They paid 100% of the current assessment.
On the improvements, 100% on the land
Right.
and 100% on the improvements, but the improvements, weren't completed, so that's why they weren't gonna pay anything on those improvements.
Right.
And that's why they got caught in this, because they completed the project early, okay? In other words, if you look at if you look at Exhibit A of the schedule, because they weren't planning on completing the project before December 31st, 2024, then they're not paying taxes on the improvements because they're not done. That's why 2005 and 26, once they were over with, the improvements were done, you get 2 years of 0% on those improvements. That's the normal course, no pilot.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So they assessed it as finished.
Correct.
And so it would have, that was the ambiguity, and I think that's why you're asking the question.
Yeah.
Originally, it was 100%, but of the unimproved value.
Yeah, as is value.
Right,
Correct.
and then it was gonna go to zero, but then the assessment happened too early.
Yeah, the assessment happened
That's right.
before they were in use. I did that. And so then the clock starts 25.
Right,
Yes,
That's what we're essentially saying.
we're saying now, 2024, they're back to 0%. They're not paying that very high assessed value.
So technically starts 24.
Yes.
Okay.
But the pilot starts in 2000. The abatement schedule of 0% starts in 2024 versus 2025. By going backwards, starting it in 2024, then they're not being assessed on the improvements for the school district, so the taxes go way down.
Which
It's
had been,
confusing.
it had been the
It's
board's
completely-
intent. And Kate and I have looked at the way that schedule is described, and it's not clear.
Yeah.
Every project always pays 100% of the taxes on the unimproved value. There's a form in our closing documents. So we never go down, taxes never go below. I mean, absent some other thing like the whole thing is reassessed, but no IDA action reduces the taxes being paid on the unimproved parcel.
Right.
And we're looking for ways to clarify that in our documents and separate the concept of always paying your full taxes on your unimproved parcel with a pilot, which only applies to the improvements. And I think that will make it a lot easier, not just for us in our taxing jurisdictions to predict, but for us to talk to other people in the community about what it means to give a tax abatement. Sometimes that's not always clear.
it took me a while, even when they called me and I talked to Joe and looked at the pilot, I was like, well, what's the issue? And then finally, they didn't know, and I went back to them and I said, the reason why the assessor assessed is because a temporary permit, CO was issued, and that's kind of the way things go. They didn't even realize that was the trigger, that they even had one. So the applicant went back to the town and or people, that were handling the project for them, and they said, oh yeah, we
The
had
GC did their
refiled
job.
it. Right, and so there was I didn't even get it at first, I guess is my point, and then they didn't realize what triggered it, and then we figured it out, and then I went back and said to Mike Cohen and Lori that, we're gonna have to look at this and fix it, because now we know what happened, and, it wasn't the intent to just turn around in that time frame and whop them with 2.4 assessment and then the taxes on that. So it's one of those weird, doesn't happen a lot, but, we'll try
We don't
to,
do a lot of transactions.
yeah.
I mean, isn't, the assessor did his job. They
Yeah,
did their job.
Everybody did their job.
I think that's right.
Did the original financial package include transfer taxes?
What do you mean?
The mortgage recording tax?
No, property transfer tax. And the only reason why I raise it is because it's delineated in here on page 2, second paragraph.
Yeah, when they entered in the original lease and the underlying lease buying transaction, the IDA would have signed what's called a TP 584.
Oh, yeah.
Which exempts them from
Yeah.
transfer taxes.
Oh, okay,
So
so
Yeah.
it's,
going through the IDA exempts you from the transfer tax.
right, okay,
That's why it's
Yeah.
referenced.
got it.
Right, because it transfers to the IDA, not
Yeah,
to
right, the
different
leasehold.
owners, yeah.
Right, because you're going through a governmental entity.
Right.
That's why it's exempt.
Yeah.
Typical for IDAs.
Anything else?
I will accept a motion to approve the resolution authorizing modification and amendment of the Cannon Development LLC project.
I'll move.
Thank you. We have a second. All in favor of authorizing the modification?
Aye.
Any abstaining or nays? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for
Thanks,
putting in
Chris.
the effort to understand what had happened and for agreeing to fix what we hadn't intended to happen in the first place. Okay, the next new business is review and approval of the contract for executive director and retainer for agency counsel. We do need a resolution. The payments were approved in our budget, and this is the form of the documents. I will turn it over to Kate to describe. There's no change from prior years except the dollar amount. So I will leave it to Kate.
Well, I think that explains it. I mean, other than that change, it's pretty much the same as last year's. We're picking up some additional duties with some legislation and also document retention and the web management as well. So that accounts for the increase, just for the folks who weren't part of the budget discussion.
So the resolution is basically, is approving, authorizing me as chair to sign those documents to continue our engagement with Kate. Any questions? Happy to accept the motion to authorize me to sign.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Passing it around.
So moved.
I'll
Second?
second.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstaining or nays? Okay, so that passes, thank you, unanimously. And the last piece of new business is the review of the scope of work for an RFP for, I call it benefit cost, Kate calls it cost benefit analysis. So we've talked about this before. This is something that we would have been able to do in-house when John was our senior economic developer. He had that ability. The likelihood that we can hire, that the town will engage a senior economic developer who has that skill set is pretty much zero. And so what we have talked about on prior meetings is doing what other IDAs do and engaging a technical consultant to perform that work on behalf of the IDA. Such a consultant would be working for the IDA, not for any project owner or developer. The project owner or developer, as part of the application fees, would pay the cost of that work so that we would not be paying for it. And the applicant would be required to pay it whether or not we ultimately decided to approve the benefit. So, certainly, as with our other fees, we'll be careful about not taking a pot of money from someone if we don't think the project is going to fly. But that's the way it works. We want, an objective third-party analysis for the IDA, but it's part of the cost to the applicant along with legal fees and other transaction fees. So this is not, I am seeing this more, alas, my competitors, for Stores Associates, but there's certainly plenty of work in this field. But basically, the state requires us to conduct some kind of cost-benefit analysis. They don't stipulate what. Being a diligent board, we know that there are a few things that we really want to understand about a project. And we used to do these, there was a relatively inexpensive software package from the Center for the Center for Governmental Research, CGR. They had an online thing that would get the job done. It would tell you a little bit about the project based on assumptions that you made from the application. They closed that business off and really left everybody scrambling a little bit. So because as Stores Associates, I'm in the business of preparing these analyses for other IDAs, as you know. And I talk regularly with Kate to make sure that we're all clear. So I drafted a scope based on the kinds of things that I believe that we should see as a board and the kinds of things that I do from other boards. And it's really important that you all feel confident that this is enough information, that in my scope there isn't something that you really want to know about a project that we might not be getting at. And this is, so the scope is for fiscal and economic impact analyses. This is not about piercing the corporate veil. This is not about the creditworthiness of the applicant. This is about the project. So in the draft scope, you know, I list the regulatory purpose, but also the board goals there. And it's really, we want an if not for analysis. We want to have confidence, reasonable confidence that without our assistance, the project is not going to be built. We want to know what the estimated tax revenue with and without a pilot would be for the different jurisdictions. And this goes to, you know, some of the budgeting we talked about just a little while ago. We want to have an impact analysis of the direct, indirect, and induced ripple effects of the jobs, the wages for both the construction period and for the ongoing operations of the project. We want to know, what's the economic impact? Is it contributing, you know, significantly to the economic and other goals of the town and the community? And finally, we really want to be able to wrap our arms around it as a companion to the if not for test.
Right.
Are we giving the right level of assistance? IDAs are often and very often wrongly accused of giving away the shop in our pilots. And one of the things that you can do is establish benchmarks that come from the market. The 10-year treasury isn't great, but it's very well understood, and compare an estimated return on the project to that kind of a benchmark. And so if IDA assistance has the project returning 30%, just to take a wild number, it's like, well, that's way above market for a real estate transaction. And maybe they don't actually need us here. Maybe they're going to be very successful without IDA. So that's also part of the analysis. And then a technical benefit cost framework. I like to have, you know, net new taxes over the life of the project, and then a ratio of benefits to cost, you know, $1.50 to 1. And what that does, especially with the ratio, is let us look over at projects over time and compare them. So that's what's written in here. And Shah, I know that you have looked at these in the past. Have you anything that you'd want to share?
No, I think this is comprehensive enough for the business that happens in the town of Bethlehem. The city of Albany, my experience is the city of Albany's business is just different. Like, they're dealing with different projects, different scopes of work, mainly real estate, not necessarily so heavy on the business side, but they're, you know, heavily focused on real estate, affordable housing. So they have those. They have entitlements for, you know, other things to make the projects a little bit more inclusive. So I think this is strong for Bethlehem, especially since, you know, the project flow isn't, you know, as great, and there's not a lot of, you know, housing specific things happening here. So I think it's good.
This is going to help guide our UTEP amendments, you know, and even for some of the newer members, we haven't had a real project. And this is part of how you'll evaluate that and what you're looking at and the data that this will provide the board in order to make that decision.
Any thought about adding like jobs created or retained as part of this, or is that strictly something for the application?
It's in there.
Yep.
It's in
The
task
economic-
number 3,
yep.
economic impact analysis.
This might also be in here, or might not be relevant, but one thing that we have to decide as a board, whether it's to be enhanced or not enhanced.
Mhm.
You know, is that addressed in here?
Yes, I went over it lightly because so basically what we would expect is that the consultant for any given engagement would look at the if not for, can it make it without any pilot? Can it make it, what does it look like with the standard pilot? What does it look like with the enhanced pilot? Do they need the enhanced, or is the standard okay?
Mhm.
And in writing this, I tried not to get really specific about that because we might see a project and say, we are not even going to consider an enhanced. As you know, we have criteria for the more generous pilot, and we could decide up front, that's not even on the table. And we would direct the consultant to look at one or both of those pilots, depending on the project.
So it's purposely not addressed. That's fine.
Yeah.
I just want to,
Mhm.
okay, that's fine. I mean, I just was curious when I read it, it didn't address it, so it's okay.
And we'll be looking at our UTEP, so I didn't want to get out in front of that process. Whatever's in the UTEP, the consultant is going to be reading and understanding.
And this is an RFP that we would put out, or on the basis of an RFP. And then we would put somebody on retainer, or how does that typically work?
So I think the idea is to get a couple qualified firms to respond. And then depending upon the project, sometimes consultants have special expertise. We would be able to award
Okay.
that.
So this isn't for one particular, we would be able to get a couple of different options.
Yeah, so our hope is we'll have multiple applicants. The board would review that and then, like any other process, decide to make an award to, or appointment of, I guess is probably one or more or none, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. Hopefully it's not, because we're going to need that. But, you know, I think we just wanted to make sure that everyone had input on this, what you would need to, you know, it's going to dictate the data we're going to get in order to review a project. So the intent was just to look at that, and then we can put together a full-blown RFP. Anything else? So we don't need a vote on that or anything. It was just really a discussion and Q&A. Let's see.
I think that brings us to future meetings.
Yes. So I tentatively put down next year's meetings, so we would have those, and so that we can reserve the room for those. I have to talk to Georgette yet about those audit committee dates, but that's what I'm going to propose to get that process rolling. Governance, I'll check on the dates, and marketing, Chris and I are going to talk about that. Do we need a finance committee in the first quarter, you think? Or?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we got the budget. You know, there really isn't. The only finance committee action really is, you know, I know the audit committee reviews the financial statement, but I think the finance committee should look at it before, you
Okay,
know, contemporaneously with the audit committee to make sure that we agree with it. Other than that,
Yeah, I agree with Dick. We also need to be mindful of the fact that Al is transferring us from computer-based QuickBooks to online QuickBooks, and the finance committee will need to be fully informed of the status of that and able to access.
Right, that's the last piece is who are we going to, when I start sending out the invites,
Mhm.
you know, who's gonna be on there, whose emails are gonna be on there? How often they might, you know, wanna need to access it.
How many people can be authorized by QuickBooks to access it?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't have-
Most-
Really?
Yeah, it's more just, I'm still tinkering with
Well,
what levels they can, you know. they
Right,
can-
it's what kind of access.
What-
yeah, I think the audit committee should be involved with that also then.
Right.
If it's access and what
Mhm.
that means. I have no clue what that means.
Well, that's what I'm still working. on.
So the way it works with other public authorities that I work with is it's about internal controls and oversight.
That's my point.
So usually it's the treasurer, and in this sense, it might make sense. I mean, Victoria and I should at least have access, not that we'd be looking at it all the time. And then the audit chair, I would think, wouldn't you? Audit, so it'd be Georgette. I mean, technically, at any time, any board member should be able to ask anybody with access, preferably Al at first, can I see whatever? So if there's a report or something, we could certainly get that if anybody wanted to see it. But, right now with bank statements and whatnot, the process is, some of them Al gets, some of them I get, and Dick, Al and I sort of do the round robin and we sign off, but we've all seen it, the money's there, there's no, but with QuickBooks Online, it gives you access where at any time you could, just go in and see the current state of reconciliation of bank accounts. So, I think as far as access, it's really only view. Like, we don't want anybody
No,
tinkering.
I don't.
No,
I
not
have enough trouble remembering what I did.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes, well, what the hell did that guy go in with? That was
Yeah. And QuickBooks, online can be a bear sometimes with data. So,
Yeah.
So I think that's fair enough. Victoria, myself, Dick, and Georgette.
You don't want me to press
Enough.
erase all?
No, I've almost done that. a few times.
Just don't delete zeros.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, right.
Please.
Right.
Yeah, and don't add any, because I can imagine wanting to go look at
I
the
don't want
fulfillment of a P
I
and
don't want to have
L.
access to input, okay?
Well, the thing I'm thinking, and I tell this to anybody that has every month, the first or second day of the month, a couple people here on the board get a copy of the bank statement with all the check images for our account. And every entity everywhere should do that to the extent they can, because you saw the place in Albany, the Polish Club, and $1 million is just, I don't think I'd ever fall to that temptation, but I think everybody should know, hey, we wrote 5 checks last month and here they are. And it's not real complicated, but it's the most basic form of internal control you can have.
I wonder if the finance committee should plan to meet sort of parallel with, or I won't say jointly, with the audit committee, if when that schedule is set, maybe that would work for us as well.
That would, as long as I'm not announced, but.
You won't be.
No,
Just no.
So what I'll do is I'll schedule audit first.
yes,
And then I will double
absolutely.
back.
Mhm.
And, to the extent, I'm not a big, we have a meeting because we need one, right? I'm not a big, have a meeting just to schedule other meetings,
Meet to meet to meet.
So to the extent we could piggyback off of, either this meeting or other things that if there's members that are the same overlapping, we should try to do that. So I'll take a look at that before we, come up with a schedule. But, I'm just really looking at first quarter at this point, because we got to get through policy review, we got to get through finance and audit. And then after that, it would be as needed. I think governance will probably need a little bit more because we're looking at a slew of policies, so. All right, I'm okay with that.
All right, so regular meeting is proposed for December 20th. If there is no agenda, we would let you know that we didn't see a reason to meet, but it's on there because we do expect to be doing some business. We'll let you know. It doesn't seem like
I
that
would
far off, Kate?
definitely hold it open.
And that's a Friday morning, Friday, December 20.
What is our quorum rules. Do we have to be in person?
Yeah, that's the state, there isn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to schedule an absence because
Okay,
we're having our baby on the 17th.
really? You can't be here?
Where are your priorities?
You're not having a
You
baby,
know?
are you?
Hey, I do a lot at home.
I know. Well, feel free to attend if you want some peace and quiet.
If you want to.
I was gonna say, can I get sleep? Can I sleep?
No. Yeah, we'll have a bunk here. The new parent,
He's
or.
abstaining.
Yeah. I
No
mean,
worries.
I don't even know if
That one.
we'll be home by Friday. Maybe by Friday we'll go home.
It's interesting that I think the end point of the law on remote meetings for public authorities, boards, and all that stuff was, and thank you, New York State, if your municipality has adopted a policy for online remote meetings, you could essentially follow it.
Right.
But a quorum would have to be present at the place, right? Yeah, I'm remembering this correctly. And, it was such a pain, like I said to clients, listen, let's just not even go there. But it's possible to do it. But if your municipality hasn't adopted
Right.
that, then.
Mhm. Yeah, in practice, I think sometimes when someone's not able to attend, they can always go and watch the meeting and then let me or Kate know
Well, you
afterward.
could always
"Hey."
attend, you can see it, like you
Yeah.
live stream it and.
But there's no activity.
Right.
Yeah, my other board, we have a member who's like half-time here, so there's always a quorum when he's involved, but he still participates.
Interesting,
But again, if there's no quorum, he doesn't
Right.
kind of matter.
right.
That's right.
And then there's the public officers law of being a resident, but anyway.
Yeah.
Another topic.
Yeah, another topic.
What else?
Is there a Latin term for that? Another topic?
You're the Latin expert.
I like that fucked up. But it's not there.
Okay, any other business questions? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Jack, did you do? That's your-
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Any abstaining or opposed? Okay, a unanimous vote to adjourn at 8:54 a.m. Thank you all.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
You too.